We'll start in a minute, don't you worry. Whoop. That one. All right. Oh, all sorted. Yeah. Okay. Hi then. So, Sunday morning stretch. So just 30 minutes stretching for the day. Stretching is super important, especially if you're trying to rehab, if you're trying to develop your range of motion, if you're supporting just a healthier, more supple lifestyle and all those kinds of things. So what we're going to do, like I say, it's about 30 minutes. Got a nice little stretch flow going through today. And all you really need is a bit of space on the floor, maybe a little bit of water if you want it. Maybe you've got some chill tunes on the old playlist in the background, something like that. But that's about it. We're going to go through 4 positions today. And in those different positions, we're going to do a bit of mobility, a bit of static stretching as well, just to kind of ease into each position and then hold it all statically to develop our body's confidence with that range of motion. So nice and easy. Grab yourself. We're going into a child pose position. If you do yoga or you've seen any videos like that, that's where we're going to start. Okay, so feet flat on the floor, and we're going to start with our knees together. All right, and we're just pushing our hands straight forward and then back on up. Okay, so we're going from this kind of knelt up position all the way down, stretching out nice and slow through that range of motion as much as you can, and then back up. We're going to do it a couple more times, and then the second time you're going to go back out, you're just going to hold that position. Okay, so really pushing those arms out. We're keeping good contact with our heels and our butt cheek as we pushing on forward from there. Nice flat palms on the mat, pushing them down as much as we can, keeping a nice live contact with the floor. Okay, and we're holding in. Good breathing is always something we want to keep going, so don't just kind of try and push it to the end of your range of motion and then kind of stop breathing. It's consistent breathing the whole time. And certainly that will play into kind of extending some of the stretches as well. Okay, as we come back up, this time we're just going to take the knees a little bit further apart. Keep your toes touching at the back. And we're just going to repeat that process forward and back a couple of times before we settle into that static stretch. So pushing yourself on out, back on up. Trying to keep that butt as close to the heels as possible. And then pushing on down and really settle in. See if you can push your stomach towards the gap now, which has been created between the knees. And now we've got a little bit of extra separation. Take a nice deep breath, and on the exhale just push on through into that space a little bit more. Maybe your arms are at full extension now and we've got kind of your forearms on the floor as well. Maybe you're even resting your forehead on the floor as well. Nice. Pushing on through from there. And then we're going to take ourselves back up And just develop that kind of situation a little bit more. We're going to open the thighs again. Open those knees as far as you can. Now, so we're even wider in that child pose position. Still keeping the toes together at the back. Still bum on the heels. And we're going to go through that motion again. So it's pushing on out as far as we can. The bum is still back towards the heels. And then back on up to seated. Okay. Every time we reset, think about good posture. Shoulder blades into our back pockets. Chest pushed forward. And then we're pushing ourselves on out again. Keeping the bum pushed back towards those heels. And then back on up. And then the third time, this time, we're going to go all the way down again. Into that range of motion. You really feel the intensity on those inner thighs. Depending on where you're tightest will depend on how much and how intense you feel it. Hip flexors, those kinds of things. Sitting in that kind of mild discomfort range where we are at the moment. Big breath in once again. And then on the exhale, pushing it through just a little bit more. And we're just going to sit there for a couple of seconds, maybe 10 seconds or so. Pushing the palms down into the floor, staying active. Pushing the groin forward into those hips as well. And really holding that stretch actively. Good stuff. Okay, and as we bring it back nice and slow, going to bring those knees in again. So we come back to that knee position that we started in. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take one leg and kick it back and over the other leg. So what that looks like, with knees together, one leg's kicking back and it's going to fold over the leg which remained in place. And as we get there, we're just going to take ourselves back as far as you can. There we go. So we're in kind of almost like a modified pigeon position. Bringing a little bit more kind of weight into the glutes. So we started with the last one. There was a little bit of a stretch in the inside of the legs. Now we're a little bit more external. Forearms are on the floor, hands are on the floor, and pushing on back from there. And then what we're going to do to develop this just a little bit further, keep the legs in the same position. We're just going to peel our chest on up. Maybe we get flat arms, flat hands right up by the knee. But we just peel that posture up and look towards the sky. So we still got a great stretch going on the glutes. We're opening the space as much as we can. And whilst we're opening the space, think about the gap between your shoulders and your ears. Try and keep that gap there. Don't kind of scrunch up your shoulders or anything like that. Keep a good space there as we go. And we're still driving those hips back. We're driving that glute down towards the floor. Really the only thing we're trying to keep static in the same place is that knee to foot situation. Okay, so let's go ahead and reset. All the way back up. So we're back to kneeling again. And this time we're going to take the opposite leg and go through the same process. So that leg is kicking back over the opposite side as we fire back as much as we can, pushing that glute towards the floor, and we're down on our forearms to start with. So just by shifting that weight back from here where we've crossed the knee over the ankle all the way back, the further you shoot it back, the more you're going to find that you get that stretch in this glute area. Okay, especially if we start to really force this glute down towards the floor. Okay. Trying to maintain good upper body posture still throughout, so that's those shoulder blades back towards your back pockets. One of the things you really got to watch out for is the silly faces that I pull during stretching. I do lots of running, and so my legs are very, very tight a lot of the time, and because of that I put myself in these very intense positions, and it really, really hurts because I'm always tight. So don't worry, just ignore my funny faces, maybe take an interesting screenshot, turn it into a meme or something if you want. And then we're going to go ahead and once again open up. So we're opening up, we're still trying to drive those hips down to the mat as much as we can. But as we open up, the posture up, looking up to the sky, spacing on out the body, trying to keep a good space between the shoulders and the ears. There we go. And as with all these stretches, they're all going to possibly look very different depending on where your range of motion is, depending on how you're feeling today, how much you want to push yourself into those mild discomfort areas and those kinds of things. Depending on how big your levers are, your leg bones, your arms, those kind of things, your stretches might look considerably different to mine. You might even take yours further than mine. So really, you're just trying to listen to the instructions, move yourself through the motion, and find the biggest range of motion that you can get for today, and sit in there to progress your body's movement patterns. Okay, so we're going into tabletop next. So that's hands under shoulders and knees under hips. We're almost like a table, so think your favourite drink, whatever it is. Margaritas Sunday morning at 9 o'clock sounds perfect, but it's balancing on your back. So that's our static position to start with. And what we're looking to do is we're looking to do a little bit of mobility with our lower back and our hips into what's known as a cat-cow, if you know what that is. So what we're doing is we're firing the middle of your back up as if someone was pulling you up with some string. Head drops down, and then we go to the opposite end of that scale. So the bum's coming up and the head's coming up. So we've got bum and head going down, middle back going up. And then we're moving softly through to the opposite of that. Okay? Okay, good. So we're just nice soft motions through there to start with. Make sure that we're happy with the movement pattern. Couple more times through the movement, firing that head and bum high, belly low, and then opposites where that back is going high, hips tucked under, head's drawn down. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to hold it at the bottom level as much as we can. Okay, so you're getting down to the lowest part of that situation, head, shoulders and bum are rotated up, and you're just going to hold it there. And once again, nice big deep breath in, and on the exhale just try and push it through a little bit further into that stretch. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the other end of that situation, that little bit of mobility that we did. So we're pushing up now, nice and slow and controlled again. Middle of your back is leading. You're really pushing yourself away from the floor as much as you can. And we're holding it there again. Nice big deep breath in. And then on the exhale, maybe you get a little bit extra movement away from the floor again. Lovely stuff. And now we return back to that neutral spine position. So back to your tabletop. Get your drink back onto your back as you're balancing it there. Going to get a little bit of a twist into it this time. So what we're going to do, let's start by taking our, let's say our left hand, and you're going to drive it underneath your other arm, so your right arm. It's driving underneath, and I'm basically going to replace my right hand as the support part of my structure with my left shoulder. So it's firing through, and now I'm on my shoulder. Okay. Once I get to this position with my right hand that I've now taken off, I'm just going to open up and try and touch my opposite hip. Okay, bit weird to get into, but when we get there, it's a great stretch. So tabletop, driving that arm all the way across. That shoulder becomes our point of contact of the arm, now comes away and opens up the body. We get a great old stretch in that oblique area, maybe a bit on your QR. And then it, like, once again, we'll hold it for about 5, 6, 7 seconds, and it's a big deep breath in. And then on the exhale, you're going to blow on out that air and just twist a little bit more. Lovely stuff. Okay, and we're going to reset and go ahead and go the other way as well. So we reset to the tabletop position. If you followed the instructions last time, you're taking your right hand this time and you're driving it through, putting the right shoulder on the floor to replace your left as your sturdy point. So we're driving through, right shoulder to the floor, and then that left arm is going to open up and touch the hip and really push that stretch round. Try not to drop your weight onto your head. Try and keep the weight through that shoulder that's on the floor as you're opening on the stretch. And that big deep breath in again. And then on the exhale, try and push it through a little bit more. Okay, good. Let's go ahead and reset ourselves, untangle. All the way back again. All right, lovely. So we're going to move into, and this one's very much going to depend on a whole bunch of areas, from kind of your lower back, your lumbar area, down all your legs, your hamstrings and your calves, all the mobility that you've got there. I have a horrendous down dog, which is where we're basically going to. My range of motion is dreadful, but we'll look at some of the key points as we move our way on up to a full down dog, and the different areas we're going to kind of concentrate on. So first we're going to concentrate on the calves. So what you're going to do, we're starting in our tabletop position and we're just going to pedal it on out, okay? So we're just going to bring our legs one at a time, straight out, toes engaged, and push back. Return to the tabletop position. Straight leg, toes in, stretching that calf, getting that mobility into the calf, finding that kind of end of the range of motion, that discomfort in the calf muscle before returning. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take both legs out onto those toes, firing those heels backwards into the calves, okay? And as soon as you get there in this kind of almost plank position, I mean, you could be in the plank, but we want the hips a little bit higher so we've got a little bit more weight going through the backs of your heels. As soon as you're in here and you've got the stretch on your calves, that's when I want you to start stepping on up slightly and slightly and bringing the hips higher and higher, okay? If you can fire your heels through and keep your heels flat on the floor, that's great. And you're just going to keep taking it closer and closer up, shooting the bum up in the air and keeping your feet, your heels as flat to the floor as you can. So you can see right here, my range of motion is horrendous. I can't keep my feet flat on the floor at all. I can't keep my legs straight. But for you, depending on your range of motion, you might be nice and flat and perfectly folded through from there. And so once you're up in this position, you're holding it, what I'd like you to do next is we're going to just step it on back on out, taking the stretch once again away from kind of the upper body, the upper legs and the lower back into that starting position where we were very eccentric on the calves. Pedal it on out again. And then back on up to that tabletop position. Good. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we're just going to get into a few lunge positions. So we're going to go ahead and from our tabletop, let's just take one leg straight on up to our hand position. So we've got one knee down, one knee up, okay? And just to start with, let's make sure that knee that's down, for the best as we can, we're going to try and keep the knee directly under your hip level. So, you know, in theory, if you've got no front leg hanging out there, you can balance directly because your weight distribution is coming down your shoulders through your hips and into that knee. So you've got a good straight line from shoulder to hip to knee. That front foot then finds space. So you can position your knee so it's on top of your ankle. Nice little right angle situation going on there. Back foot at the moment, flat on the floor. And what we're looking to do from this position is just push our hips through. Okay? Pushing your hips through. Keep that front foot flat on the floor. Just push your hips directly forward. You'll notice that, it, like I say, it's hips forward that we're interested in. As a byproduct of that, yes, that front knee is going forward as well, but I don't want that to be your focal point, okay? Because I want your focal point to keep your posture back and down, your shoulders back and down, and firing forward. So we feel kind of all from around the bottom of the teardrop of that quad, anywhere upwards into the hip flexors, into the groin. This is what you might feel. But important fact, like I say, front foot's flat on the floor, shoulders are back, good upper body posture as we're pushing on through. And if you want to bring this one forward a little bit more, make it a little bit more intense, that back foot, we can grab it and pull it on up as well. Once again, depending on how much movement you've got in that quad, will depend how much you can bring this leg into account. But just think posture. And remember, big deep breaths. And on the exhales, push on through just a little bit more. Okay, great. And let's go ahead and do it on the other side as well. So we're turning ourselves round. Let's just adjust that a little bit so my head's here. Other knee now's on the floor. And then, so we're directly knees, hips to shoulders. Then we set our front foot, ankle under knee. And then once again, it's hips forward, okay? Concentrate on squeezing those glutes and pushing those hips forward rather than concentrating on the knee forward. In this position here, there's not a lot of my hip getting pushed through, which means the stretch on that quad, on that down leg at the moment, isn't as intense as just concentrating on pushing my hips through here. I'm feeling more stretch here by just pushing my hips through than I am here concentrating on pushing the knee forward. So hips is what we're looking to do. Push those hips through and holding on. Maybe you take that big deep breath in, and on the exhale, you push on through a little bit more. And then maybe we also bring that back leg into account as well. Whoop. All the way up to intensify the stretch on the quad area. That's the muscles in the tops of your legs, tops of your thighs at the front side. And what this one here, right here, when you bring the kind of the back leg into account as well, if you've never done this stretch before, it can become quite intense quite quickly. Remember, we're only working our stretches into mild discomfort. So just a little bit of oof. That kind of mild discomfort, like when your kids keep nagging for a chocolate bar and you can just about deal with it. It's a bit annoying, but you kind of deal with it. Okay, and back we go. Okay, so we're going back into the opposite leg again. So we reset our lunge position. Knees down, knees under hips and shoulders, ankles under knee. And what we're looking to do now is we're going to pop our, whichever leg you've got up at the moment, same side hand, we're going to plop in the floor directly to the side of that foot. Then what we're looking to do, depending on how you feel today, how your balance is, how your range of motion is, all those kinds of things depends on how far you come into this movement. So at any point you feel the stretch, lean into that stretch a little bit for you. If you feel those tight areas, lean into those stretches, those kinds of things, and don't worry about taking it to the next level if you don't want to. But hand under the floor next to that foot. What we're looking to do is just open on up. Okay? So just opening the hands. So now we've still got a nice line between our down foot and that knee, so it's still ankle under knee. And now we're trying to draw a nice big beautiful line with our arm span as well, with our wingspan flat on the floor next to our ankle. Your shoulders is probably right next to your knee, and try and open up so your upper arm just takes a nice straight line up. If we want to intensify this and take this to the next level, we can bring that back leg even up as well, pointing those toes out the same direction we're opening. So we get in that nice folded out, twisted position as well. And once again, nice big deep breaths in. And then on the exhale, maybe you push it through a little bit more. Okay, good. And then we're going to unfold. And then reset ourselves with the other leg on up. Once again, knee under hip, hips under shoulders, on that back leg and that front leg, ankles under knees. Same side hand as the knee that's up is going to go down right next to that ankle. Shoulders probably around the knee level, and then we extend and open on up, twisting out as best we can. And then if you want to increase the stretch a little bit more, and a little bit more challenge, a little bit more of your core involved, those kinds of things, shoot that back leg up as well. To hold that position. Got a great twist on. We're sending those shoulders back. Nice firm base. Nice and still. And then we bring it on all back. Okay, just a couple more then. Sitting on the floor. My preference for these stretches is always up against the wall. The reason why my preference is up against the wall is just because then I can be super lazy first and foremost, but also it supports my back, so it allows me to continue to feel and keep my upper body in a good position, which allows the stretch to come on a little bit better as well. So although it looks lazy, and it is super lazy, posturally, it allows the stretch to come on a little bit better. So you could be sat up against the wall, sat up against the sofa, or something along those lines, but just something to support that good kind of flat back situation. Taking my legs out as far as they can, trying to keep my toes facing up to the floor. You're trying to get your legs open wide enough so that you can start to feel the stretch on your inner legs. As I say many times, depending on where you're tightest, will depend on where you feel the intensity on this one. I feel a lot of intensity around my hip flexors and a little bit in my hamstrings as well. We're just going to do a couple of movements from this position, and then we're going to sit on our feet and then be done for the session. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is try and keep, if you're in leaning against something, try and keep your shoulder blades up against the wall and keep your butt cheeks on the floor. If you're just free away from everywhere, then just try and keep that good upper body posture as best you can, remembering those shoulder blades down to the back pockets, That chest nice and pronounced. And I'm just going to drive myself folding to one side. I'm trying to get my forearm to the floor. From there, remembering butt cheeks are staying on the floor, back's up on the wall as well. And once you kind of get to that position where you've got the weight onto the forearm on the floor, I'm going to bring that right hand all the way over as well, just to really bring the stretch on. So QR muscle, QL, QR, QL, from there. So we could be feeling this directly in the back, possibly down in the lumbar region. Definitely should be feeling it in the oblique section up here, side of our core setup. And then we go ahead all the way over to the opposite side as well. Forearm to the floor, butt cheeks still on the floor, and then all the way over again. Remember, anytime you get into these positions where you feel your range of motion is at its maximum, if you take a big deep breath in, and on the exhale, pushing it through a little bit more on those exhales. There we go. Lovely stuff. And then we're going to take ourselves back to the center, bring our soles together, soles of your feet. And this is a real good stretch for that lower back, especially if it ever feels super tight or painful or anything like that. Especially if you're leant up against the wall for support, because you can really keep your upper body in a really great position as you really do kind of open up the hips in this movement. So it's a lot easier to get this kind of hip opening situation with the good posture than if you're away from the wall. Regardless, like I say, feet together, good posture on the back, shoulder blades are on the back, lower back's on the wall, shoulder blades are on the wall, bums on the floor, and you're just going to put pressure onto your knees. That's it. Pressure onto your knees, and you can get away with just the slightest little bit of pressure to really bring on a lot of stretching in this kind of hip flexor area, which you'd be really surprised how far in lower back kind of pain relief and dealing with lower back problems, this will take you, just this one stretch alone, if you do it regularly, you know, every kind of day kind of thing, 2, 3, 4 times a day as well. Pushing those knees down. And once again, super lazy. The last couple of stretches we've done, super lazy. The kind of thing when you sat on your ass watching the TV at night, rather than being sat or slumped on the sofa. If you sat in front of your sofa, you're putting very minimum effort in, but you're getting great amount of stretching coming out of it. Lovely stuff. Okay, last couple then. We are back to sitting on our heels again. Good body posture to start with. Just getting a nice little bit of opening up of our ankle area and our kind of our foot movement as well. So we're just going to sit here for 5 seconds or so. You're putting all your weight through the ankle. So let's say that this is your foot here. We're really looking to kind of flatten it out as much as we can as you lean on it. Okay, to the point where if you did this regularly, maybe you get a nice kind of knee to ankle to toe situation, so you could be a ballerina or something. So stretching that ankle out, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to sit up, put our toes up this time, toes high, and then once again sit on back on those toes, opening up the foot. Get a nice little bit of stretch going on there. This is a great one, this combination of two. If you're a runner especially, it's really good to kind of give a little bit of attention to this kind of area. Helps with things like plantar fasciitis, as well as kind of Achilles situations and those kind of things. So just keeping kind of extra little bits of movement on these areas that are usually missed out with strength and conditioning and those kinds of things can really help pay dividends. Once again, this one here, if you're on tops of your toes, super painful if it's a new one for you. So maybe you're only sat in it for 5 seconds or so. Take it off, put it back on. Those kinds of things. Let's go back to flat foot for 10 seconds. And then finish back up on the toes one last time. Lovely stuff. Okay, good stuff. All right, thank you very much for tuning in. Give the stream a like my page if you've not already done so. Share it if you like that, would be wonderful as well. All the classes that I do online during this wonderful lockdown time, they all get uploaded to YouTube as well. So there's a link somewhere on the Facebook page. So if you want to go along and find out any of the other stretching classes that we've done, or any of the other classes, then you can go to the YouTube and find the history of them there. And every week there are more classes going on up there as well. So give the YouTube a like. Drop a message either on the Facebook page, the YouTube, blah blah blah, all that other social media stuff that everybody knows about. That'd be great. If you've got any questions, or if you've got any tightnesses or anything that you're unsure about that you would like to see, because these classes are quite kind of, I like to think that I can do a little bit extra if there's things that people want to see. So if there is something you want to see, you want to get a bit of more movement in a certain area, part of your body, drop me an instant message or something like that, and I'll see if I can incorporate it in the next one. So have a great week, ladies and gentlemen, and I will see you I probably won't see you, but you might see me again soon. Anyway, bye-bye. High five.